Hello everyone, it's Jasmine and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit special video because I am celebrating with Maaike. She is almost reaching her 2,000 subscriber mark, and that's a big goal for her. So she invited me to join in and celebrate with her, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do an alcohol ink background with a little spinny unicorn. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I've got my colors right here, and these will be listed in the description box. And we're just going to do a really simple alcohol ink technique where we have some glossy cardstock. We drip our inks down onto a non-absorbent surface, so like I have a non-stick craft mat here. And then just dip your cardstock into it, and it picks it up, and it has really pretty patterns and colors and swirls and stuff. And you can do this with any colors. You can do it. I usually make between 6 and 10 of these at a time. And there are all 6 that I did with this little round. So we're going to use one of those pink and purple ones at the bottom. So moving on to our unicorns, I've got some Gerda Steiner Designs Moody unicorns here. And I'm going to use the stamp set and the coordinating dies with some Copic markers. So the cardstock I have here is Bristol Smooth cardstock. Now this has a coating on it that you have to let the ink sit for a minute and dry. So between 5 and 10 minutes, I will let this sit aside to dry, so that way the Copic doesn't smear it. Once it's dry, Copic and Memento work perfectly together with the Bristol. This is my favorite go-to cardstock. Just kind of keep in mind that it takes a minute to dry. So going in with our Copic markers, for the skin tone on our unicorn, we're going to use E50, E51, and E21. The E50 is going to be our lightest tone, the E21 is our darkest, and then the E50 is a mid-tone. So I'm going to put a layer of the E50 down first, and that's going to wet the paper. And then I'm going to go in with my E21, and you want to put this where the shadows would be, so under his hair, under his chin, where his legs meet, his arms meet his body, where you would see a natural shadow. And then the E51 to blend out the E21, but you don't want to cover up all of your highlights because that's what's going to add your dimension. And then back in with the E50 to blend everything together and make it look nice and smooth. When you're using Copics, you want to find a heavier weight cardstock because the way Copic markers work is the ink blends in the fibers of the paper. So if you're using a really thin cardstock or a poor quality cardstock, you're going to run into it bleeding outside of your image lines a lot easier than if you're using a high quality, thicker cardstock. And I went in with some R20 for the pink in his cheeks and the pink in his ears. And we're going to use C2, C4, and C6 for his hooves. So starting with C2, that's our lightest color. And then C6 will be the darkest, and you're going to put that like on the bottom of his hooves and then on the edges at his feet. And the C4 to blend that out, and C2 to finish. And then for his hair, I wanted his hair to be a real bright, kind of shocking pink almost, but with a little bit more of a reddish tone to it. So that's why I picked the RVs versus just the R's or the V's, because both R's and V's have pink tones in them, and the RV kind of meets it in the middle. But these are a little more opaque and a little more punchy, more bright. So the RV19 is the darkest, RV17 is my mid-tone, and then RV14 is the lightest. And these are smaller images, so if you don't have 3 shades of a marker, you can still do it with 2. You can even do it with 1. You just have to go over it in layers, and you can get more of that depth. And then for his horn, I will go in with an RV00. And that's just a really light pink tone. And that finishes up the unicorn and the coloring for that. Oh, and I added some Spectre Noir Sparkle Clear pen over his horn too. A little bit of sparkle. So here I'm showing you how I laid out the stamping and the die cutting for my panel, just to kind of give you an idea of the thought process. And then I'm going to use my MISTI to do the stamping. And because this is a glossy cardstock, it doesn't absorb ink like a plain cardstock does. So I used Archival for my stamping on this, just because it's a solvent ink and I know that it's going to dry smooth. It's not gonna smear or bleed or anything like that. So these two stamps are from the same Moody Unicorn stamp set. And then I'm going to take my Delicata Silver Shimmer ink. This is a pigment ink, and usually I say you need to heat emboss all pigment inks, otherwise they don't dry. But with these, specifically to the Delicata ones, these do dry and they dry nicely. And the interesting thing about these is that if you do heat emboss them, even if you're using a clear powder, it kind of loses some of that shimmer. So I prefer these Delicatas not embossed. And then I did set this aside to dry for probably 15-20 minutes. So this little circular die I've used is an MFT Circle Spinner channel die. And I'm going to show you what not to do now. So when I first did this, I did not account for giving my penny space to move around. So I put the foam tape on here way too close to my edges. So I think a penny is about 3/4 of an inch wide, and so you need to make sure that you leave plenty of room for it to move around on the back. So I ended up kind of going back in after all of my foam tape is applied and after I figure out that I need bigger margins, and kind of trimming down this middle circular piece, the foam tape there, and I just removed this thinner circular piece that wraps around. So I could have taken all of this out and left all of this footage out of the video, but I wanted to show you kind of what not to do, and also that it's fixable when you do make mistakes. And this is 3M foam tape that I've doubled up. So while it's a strong foam tape, it is fairly forgiving in that it's kind of easy to peel off if you need to. So I've got my little unicorn there, and those little white discs up in the top left corner, those are also by MFT, and they are called Spin and Slide discs. Now, these are really small, little flat plastic discs that give you some dimension and some maneuverability with your spinner element. So I've got some mini glue dots there that are just the right size for that little disc. And you're going to end up putting one on both sides of the disc, one to attach the unicorn and one to attach the penny. So there's the little die cut piece that I'm fitting back onto the panel. My little glue dot and my penny. And then that middle piece kind of flips out, so you can fit in that penny. And this is kind of where I figured out that I had too much foam tape on the back and I needed to do a little bit of card surgery. So that foam tape there next to the penny is too close and it's not going to allow it to move freely. So see, it's getting a little stuck there, so I kind of peeled that off and went in and carefully trimmed it back a little bit. And the cardstock that I'm using is Nina Classic Cream cardstock. And this was just a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel, so it's okay if I got a little bit torn up because you wouldn't see it anyway. So now we have a freely moving Moody unicorn. So that is the finished card. I'll have the next video in the hop linked in the description box, and also on my blog, so you can hit both and see what we've got. And thanks for joining us for the blog hop. Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate all the views and subscribing and all of that. So congratulations to Maaike, and we will see you next time. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.